White House correspondent. President Obama not the only defiant one in the midst of these scandals swirling about him. Attorney General Eric Holder today missed a 5 p.m. Eastern Time deadline to personally explain questionable remarks he made before Congress last month. When he testified, he was unaware of any potential prosecutions of journalists. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Congressman Bob Goodlatte received a low-level denial from the Justice Department earlier this week. The chairman, however, wants answers from the Attorney General himself and is not ruling out a subpoena. Turning back to the appointments today, my first guest says that Ambassador Susan Rice isn't competent to serve as National Security Advisor because of her comments about the Benghazi attacks on those 5 Sunday talk shows. Joining us now, former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy. Great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Outright, simply not qualified.
Well, one way or the other, she's not qualified. If she purposely lied, if she knew what she said on those Sunday shows was false, she's unfit to serve ethically, morally, and if she was about the business of pulling the wool over the American people's eyes, she shouldn't be in a position of trust. If she actually honestly believed what she was saying, under circumstances where, as we now know, within minutes of the attack, the government in Washington knew that this was a terrorist attack, and certainly by the time she was on those programs, it was utterly clear that it was not a reaction to this video, which has just been a fraud through and through from the start. Then I don't see how she's competent to advise the president on matters like counterterrorism.
Because in this instance, she's his choice, and rather conveniently, I think it might be said, will not have to testify in a confirmation process. In fact, the president's executive privilege can be asserted so that she won't have to testify at all to Congress on the issue of Benghazi, right?
Well, let's see if that's the case. We do have some history of the president's advisors being called to testify on important matters, the 9/11 Commission, for example. But it's up to whether the president is going to cooperate. Is the most transparent administration in history going to be cooperative with Congress in getting to the bottom of what happened?
I think that's sort of moved by this administration, the most open and transparent.
Good to remind them, though, periodically, like every day.
Well, Samantha Power, nominated to go to the United Nations, she will be facing a confirmation process, as you know. As we listen to her even today, talking about military intervention, rather than relying upon the good offices of the United Nations, which she purports to be representing us to. This is a woman who has been excoriating in her criticism of the Security Council, calling it undemocratic. She has a strange voice for a U.S. ambassador to the United Nations.
My view of this, for what it's worth, is that when you elect President Obama, you get Samantha Power. I think that she would be implementing his policy. I think that's clear across the board. I think it's clear at the Justice Department, at Homeland Security, and
is it clear
elsewhere.
enough that would pose an obstacle to her confirmation? Because, frankly, she's somewhat radical in her views on the use of U.S. military power and where those interventions could take place, rather than United Nations forces.
Well,
which is really ironic, given that this president lashed President Obama and the Republican Party for their failure to rise above unilateralism.
Yes. Well, you know, look, I think she would implement his policy. She's not the most objectionable nominee that
is the highest standard I have heard yet applied to a...
Well, but I mean, that's the fact is, would I like...
the most objectionable.
I would like to see her not get through, but the fact is she's going to get through. I mean, look at who's gotten through so far. There's been clear cases to stop a number of these nominees, and the Republicans haven't stopped them. I don't think that this is the hill they die on.
Andrew McCarthy, always good to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
New developments concern